it tell you the
Yeah,
consent for it?
it announced me that this video is being recorded to let me know you ain't out here with no tomfoolery or no
Yeah,
shenanigans.
see, it's my consent. You had to consent. I was being real, I was letting you
I'm
know.
with it. I thought that was the form I signed, but okay,
It
twice.
twice. You got to be ready. You got to
Hmm.
be ready. All
Right.
right. So, Manifest 31, episode 1. I am super, super excited to have with me Jamell Jefferson. He is a licensed counselor. I am excited because he's going to be talking about a really, really heavy topic that is going on across our community. So, Jamell, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, my name is Jamell Jefferson. I am a licensed professional counselor, a graduate of Ashland Theological Seminary with a master's degree in counseling. I am an owner of a private group practice named Envision Change Counseling and Consulting LLC. I've been practicing for over 10 years. I'm actually a adjunct professor at Ashland Theological Seminary in the counseling program, and I'm a licensed elder in my church. I'm a married man of 18 and a half years, and I have three wonderful children.
Awesome. 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 So, how have you been managing through this whole pandemic, COVID?
Barely.
Barely.
No, for me, I am such an extrovert. And one of the things that COVID did was stop me to assemble with people, which is like a very lifeline for me because I feed off the energy of people. And to have me isolated is like counterproductive to my growth cycle. And to be honest, is that even times I think I was battling with my own depression
Hmm.
because it's like the things that I really needed, I couldn't do. So I had to find ways to supplement these engagements or activities. But the way I've really been managing is it was my attitude.
Right. Okay.
I was forced to adapt a new attitude about this whole pandemic and having to shift my whole business focus, even the teaching focus, and the way I have done life. That's the way I've survived. And with God, I could not have done this without God. God has sustained me throughout this whole COVID process. And that's huge. So, if I'm really truly honest, the only way I've made it through is through the power of God.
Yes, definitely. And one of the things you stated was changing your attitude. And that can be hard. That can be definitely hard, especially with everything going on around you. So, what are some ways that you changed your attitude?
One of the things is that I have this. There's this script. They're not scripture. There's a saying by Charles Swindoll that talks about attitudes
Hmm.
and how they affect the way you see things and how damaging they be, and then how you choose to see things or choose to engage stuff will determine the outcome. And that was the biggest way for me. So I had to start. Well, how am I looking at this being stuck at home?
Hmm.
If I focused on all the negative things that it did to me, it put me in a bad place. But I started shifting the focus. All right, so what's good coming out of this? And
Mm.
what makes it fun? What is it that I can do now? So instead of saying what I can't do, I started looking at the things that I could do.
Wow.
And
Okay.
now I got more time. I've developed some new skills. Actually, I discovered some skills that was dormant in me.
Come
And
on.
what's funny is that my dad cracked joked about it because my I come from a line of carpenters.
Hmm.
And actually, my father has a construction business. I didn't dabble in that arena, but then I was making some tables and doing some woodwork, and he calls me. He said, "Oh, so you just gonna wait till you turn 100 to be a carpenter, huh?" I was like, I guess so that, but it was one of those that it just now it gave me time to do different things that I've kind of knew I could do,
Hmm.
but now I've actually had time to do it. So I've taken on different hobbies or different little tools. And, um, I tell everybody stay off YouTube because it's evil, because YouTube will have you out here invincible. You can do anything. And next thing you
Look,
know, you done
he done
spent
created
$4,000 on
everything.
tools, right? Like, they be like, it's easy, you can do this. And then you start watching these videos, it's like, well, I don't have that tool, but if I get that tool, I can do this. And then you start getting these tools and you start doing this stuff. And it's like, hmm, well, if you do this, this, and this, and I'm like, okay. So that kind of caught me too. So I had some ways to try to experiment with some things, had time to do it. And then I started developing, tools to develop the skill sets to certain things.
I just want to kind of go back and recap. So, changing your attitude, it took going from this can't mindset to what can I do?
Hmm.
And then in the midst of that, you were able to discover gifts that was just inside of you the whole entire time
Yes.
and those skills. Wow. Okay. Even though you wait till you was 100, we're not going to talk about
Hmm.
that.
All right.
But I wanted to kind of dive into manifestation, right? So, Manifest 31 mission is to really help people to see that they are not alone. That manifest is a clear vision, and 31 is about growth, development, transformation. So, through this pandemic, you talked about attitude changing, you talked about discovering yourself. What does manifest mean to you in this season?
Manifest means to bring forth.
Mm,
And that's the way I look at it. So now when you hear the word, manifest, that means something is coming to fruition, something is
mhm,
happening. And it's no longer a thought or a plan, but it's actually things have been put into motion. So
mm.
that's when I think about manifestation, I think of the now. It's happening. So that's kind of really what it means, bringing it to fruition, time to stop talking about it and be about
Yes. And what are you manifesting in this season?
it. What am I manifesting? I'm
Mhm,
actually, peace.
mm.
I've manifested so much peace in the midst of this pandemic. It's been crazy. And no, I'm not. I have not manifested. God has manifested in my
Yes.
life, and I have been the process of the recipient of it. So as He's endowed it with me, I have brought it forth. So that's what it is. So I've been practicing it. So that's been the work for me. It's been peace. You
Mhm.
know, staying
And
sane.
And for some people, it's been a really a struggle with finding that peace. Um, and as you mentioned before, you went through your own depression through this season. What tips can you give specifically our Black community, especially with all the racism going on, everything being more to the forefront? What advice can you give to those who are really struggling, trying to get out of depression, but life is still chaos around them?
Right. Um, One of the tips is the first thing is attitude.
Mhm,
How am I looking at these situations? And I tell it, you got to start examining how do I see these things? If I'm looking at it, all the negative in it that's going to produce a negative atmosphere.
mhm,
Another one is self-talk. What am I saying to myself throughout these processes? If I'm beating myself up about certain stuff, if I'm so critical, super critical, hypercritical of myself, that's going to put me in a down place. So I have to look at what is the message that I'm sending to myself? What am I saying about me?
mhm,
That also helps. And then just putting some things in practice. There's certain stuff I got to be able to understand. One, two, what can I do? Um, and what is my ability to do some of these things? Because there's some things that may be in front of you that you have no control over. There's
mhm,
nothing you can do about it. And how do you understand that? And then being able to just accept what I can do and maybe just doing what I can do. It might just be something simple as maybe I go next door and cut the neighbor's grass. That's something I can do,
mhm.
versus why I can't cut the whole block. Okay. And then I'm depressed because I can't hold. No, what can I do? So being able to look at a situation, a scenario, and say, well, what is it that I can do? What is it that I can control? And then work on those things versus, stuff that's outside of my sphere of influence or control.
Definitely. And I think going into talking about more of like people's environment. Sometimes it's really hard to change your environment, right? Some
Hmm.
people are in situations where they can't just go out, or if they go out, it's a lot of things going outside of them that is an influence that is negative. There's people that are really struggling with job loss right now, trying
Hmm.
to manage school, virtual school. And again, like I said, the racism, the discrimination, all these different things are happening, and people can't necessarily stop life. So what can they do?
Um, Practically, it's community. Let's start there.
Hmm.
Having a solid community to where you can have others to lean on.
Mm,
others to talk to, so you don't have to isolate and do everything by yourself. That is one of the greatest tools available to us, but somehow that's been lost, is the art of community. So who can I reach out to just even just talk about what's going on inside of me?
mm-hmm,
Yes, I have this environment that is so maybe detrimental.
mm,
However, do I have the ability to survive it? And the answer is yes. And I'm gonna keep going. Attitude, how do I see it? If I'm always, man, I suck. This is always happening to me. This is bad. But is everything bad around you? Is there anything good? And I think that's one of the mindsets is we do have to shift our mindset to, you know what? Yeah, I might be in this situation, but guess what? It's temporary.
mm,
What can I do to get out of it? You know, if we talk about growing up in the inner city and it's a impoverished neighborhood and area, but is there anything I can do to get out of that? Yes. We all have opportunities afforded to us. And now it's just even taking advantage of some of those opportunities, and not even and stop blaming people for what's happening to you, but understand that I can change it. I don't have to let this continue. And all right, but what do I need to do to get through it? What are some things I might need to do differently? That's all part of this. Everybody has an opportunity to get out. And I think it's important if you take it, you know.
mm-hmm,
Don't get mad at the next man because he took some risk and some chances to better his situation. But ask him, hey man, what did you do to get out of that? And I think that's another part. Even sharing how do we come over? How do we get through things, and listening to other people. So that's even in community. Who's doing what I inspire to do and connecting with them and asking the questions, man, how did you get out? What did you do? What can I do different? And gleaning from them. And I think that is huge, and I think that's the big difference. How do I want to be better and begin to take the necessary steps to do it. And yes, you can. However, you might need assistance to do it and not be so, I'm use the term, prideful,
mm,
because our pride would tell us that we don't need any help, we can do this alone. And in reality, I've yet to meet anybody that can do anything by themselves. I've reflected back on millionaires and people with money and wealth, and I really believe they didn't do it by themselves. They took advantage of systems put in place to do it, but somebody maybe sowed a seed into their business. Somebody may have pointed them in the right direction. Somebody may have gave them a tip. Somebody may have what's the term I want to use? Sponsored them.
mm-hmm.
Somebody gave them assistance. The difference was that they took advantage of it. They didn't set out though, I'm gonna conquer the world on my own. And then when they did everything they know to do,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't quit, but they
Wow.
actually let me look out for what resources are available to me, and then use them, and not look at it as a handout. Because again, every business that got started, somebody gave you a handout.
Somebody sowed that seed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So I
Somebody
just,
helped you.
even to touch base on that and going back to that community doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be a whole field of people, but it's the community that you bring and that supports you.
Correct. Yeah.
And then stepping out on faith and reaching out to that person that you admire, that
Mm-hmm.
you see doing the things that you want to do. And sometimes we are fearful because to be honest, scared of rejection, scared of failure.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the if you talk about that, it's one of the most crippling factors is that failure. But even recently, I had to ask myself, well, how do I define failure? I remember, it is crazy. The story is like it was a meeting with my pastor, and he came to a place and he was kind of talking. And I remember him says that he never fails. And so, me being a bit sarcastic, I was looking like, I'm waiting to hear this. You never fail. Oh, speak, sir. And I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking
Oh,
it all internally.
that's
So, but and then he went on to define, he said, the way I think of failure is me quitting.
mm,
So he says that I never fail because I never quit. And that paused me all the way in my tracks. I had to stop. It was like, wait a minute. So what you're telling me is that depending on your definition of failure will determine how you see things. And I was like, wow, that's great. So even from that perspective, I had to define what do I think is failure. And now that I know even science, experiments that you do, you get a hypothesis, then you run all these tests. But what happens when you actually do not answer the hypothesis? How many times do you run these tests? And the one thing that I do know from even scientists and experiments, they keep running it, but each time they run it, they learn something new and then they make adjustments. So it's not failure because you didn't meet the hypothesis, but wait a minute, I gathered information to make adjustments to get where I'm going. And if we can adapt that atmosphere to say, you know what, I didn't fail because maybe it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but
Hmm.
what did I learn from it? What information did I gain? And what adjustments did I make? And then I end up at a certain place. I think that's huge right there. So now, how do I see failure? So if I go to a job interview and they don't give it to me, then I'm a failure. No, that means I wasn't meant to be there, or that place didn't match what they were looking for. That's fine. I move on to the next. That's not a failure.
Hmm.
And I think that's it. So now I even come back to attitude, how I see things. If I see it as rejection, if I see it as failure, as if I define it that way, then it will be.
I like what you said about, or even what your pastor stated, seeing failure as is when I quit. And a lot of times we get so afraid of failure that we quit before we even started. We
Hmm.
quit before we even started. And like you said, as far as like the learnings, is to adjust and to shift and to go back to that mindset of shifting my mindset when things don't go the way that I planned them to go. And that's hard because I know for me, I'm a planner. I am a planner, and me planning helps me to control what I think should be the outcome. But that has also, being honest, crippled me in a lot of ways because that has caused me to quit before I started. So, as someone that is trying to shift their mindset, someone that's trying to grow through all these different changes, what's the what's the most important thing they can do as far as self-care? Right? I want to know about self-care. We hear it all the time. It's all these different things coming out now where you got to do this for self-care. You got to do this for self-care, and you fit that in your schedule, right? But how can we implement that in our daily without even realizing we're even doing it sometimes?
Well, one of the things about self care, the way I talk about self care is just like if you ever flew on a plane. Self care is just like the flight attendant speech. In the event that the plane goes down and then the airbags drop down, please secure your mask first before you put somebody else's on. And that's self care at its finest. I have to do the things
Can
to
you repeat
where,
that? Go back, because I don't. Because I even though I heard it on the plane so many times, it just hit for some reason. Say it again for me.
in the event that the plane goes down and the air mask release, please secure your mask first before you try to
First.
put somebody else's on.
Mm,
The thought behind that is, if you can't breathe, how you gonna put somebody else's mask on?
okay.
And that's how a lot of people are doing in the world now. I can't breathe, but I'm gonna help you breathe. You know, how does that work?
Mm,
It's very crippling. You know what? I can't walk, but I'm gonna carry you. I don't know how that works. All right, I'm about to get evicted, but I'm gonna pay your rent. How does that work? I've not I'm not read anywhere where that's the requirement. And I'm gonna say biblically, I've not read that in the
mhm,
Bible. Um, Even though, yeah, the Bible does teach us to love your neighbor as yourself. There's an equal part of that. So there's some requirements that you have to be fit. There's some things you have to do to preserve you, to make sure you're in the best condition so you can give the best of yourself to somebody else. I say that's self-care. So you know what? It's kind of like, all right, one for you, one for me. Two for you, one for me. Okay, I still matter in this piece. What are the simple things you do? Um, One of the toughest questions that hit me a few years ago when people used to ask me, well, what do you do for fun? And they used to pause in my tracks and say, man, I go to work. I cook, I eat, I play with the kids. That's fun. No, that's the route of depression in the
Right.
working world, because they say that's what you do as an adult. You grow up, there is no fun. You go to work, you make money, you pay bills, you do all your responsibilities, and then you get up the next day and do it again.
You sure?
That's
Because that's no. Okay.
yeah, that's what they teach us. But no, what do I do for me, the enjoyment that I used to have? Even recapturing some of those things, and those are the moments that allow you just to escape the hustle and bustle, so you can come back. Many people do it in the wrong way, whether they turn to drugs or some type of unhealthy coping skill. But how do I implement a healthy coping skill? That time that just allows me to recharge my batteries. Same way we plug up our phones at night to let them charge so we can use them the next day. Don't be that person that plugs up your phone and uses it all the time. Or I'm always at 10%. And that's how a lot of people operate in their lives. But no, let the phone charge. Leave it alone so you can get the maximum value and boost out of it. And that's us. When do we take time to recharge? When do we take time to, clean ourselves out? So we're not serving people dirty water. That's the way I like to tell it.
Okay. I
I'm
don't
a
want no
vessel.
dirty work.
I'm a cup. So when do I take time to clean my cup out? Very
You
good question.
can.
You can. Self care says I take time to clean my cup out. However, if we go by the principles that we're taught in the world, we never clean our cups out. So when we're filled with clean water, I present to you this dirty, filthy cup. What happened to that clean water? It's just been contaminated.
Mm.
Yeah. And I ask people, if you're okay with serving other people poison, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not, take time to clean your cup out. Take time for you. So now when somebody comes to encounter you, they get a refreshing drink and it's not cross contaminated.
Man, I think you just really just you just hit it on the head, especially when I think about um my cup runneth over, right? So
Hmm.
we all of us we want our cup runneth over. You never think to say, okay, let me take a minute and clean my cup out. So what I'm actually runneth over, man,
That's it.
out.
Or take time to plug the leak in your cup. Because if God's filling your bucket up and it's got a hole in it, where's the substance going?
Hmm.
You got to stop and plug that hole so it can be sustained, so it can overflow. And somebody else that comes. So now let's go back to community. Because if my bucket is overflowing, the people that are connected to me will automatically be affected. Because once my bucket overflows, if they stand around me with their cups, they automatically get filled up.
Mm. Okay. Now, what about not taking on that guilt and selfishness of like I'm putting in this time for me? Because sometimes we hold on to that and we think, oh, I'm being selfish, or our family members or friends can actually start saying you're being selfish.
Mhm. So I tell people to actually define what selfish is.
Hmm.
Selfish means it's all about me all the time. I don't think about nobody else. Self care is not selfish, it's mandatory. It's like maintenance on your car. So if I take my car to get the oil change, am I being selfish to my car? No, it's needed so it can function properly. We're like machines. We are conditioned to run at a certain peak in performance, but we got to do certain things to make sure that's accurate. So when people are here telling us that we're being selfish, we're being selfish. Okay, I can look at it. Is it me all the time, or is it just me sometime? And if that's the case, now I gotta. Well, what's the motive behind it? Am I being selfish because I'm not meeting your need at the time? I'm actually, I'm closed because I'm under repair.
Hmm.
It's not selfish because I need to do repair so I can be selfless.
Okay.
In order for me to serve you, there's certain things I need to do. And let's be honest, everybody has their own agenda.
Now, one other thing I really wanted to touch on is molestation and abuse mentally, physically, and trauma, right? So these are topics we went from self-care, and I know we were jumping right into this, and this is a really heavy topic, but I want to talk about this because a lot of times you can't go into self-care a lot of times because you haven't healed,
Hmm.
and you haven't healed from past traumas.
Hmm.
What
Got
is
it.
the process of healing?
Um, Getting into a safe place that would allow you to address those past hurts and pains.
Mhm.
Um, Whether it's therapy, um, no, it is therapy, some form of therapy, because that's the only way you're gonna deal with it. Having that non-biased place to work through certain things is very important because even in our community, it's frowned upon.
Mhm.
These hush rules or no talk rules, secret keeping. What goes on in your house stays in your house, so you don't talk about it. But then if I don't talk about it or deal with it, how do I overcome it? And then it becomes this constant barrier from me achieving certain things in my life because I haven't went to deal with what happened to me in my past. And that could be the very thing that's stopping you from manifesting your destiny, is because this weight that you're carrying won't allow you to move forward. So eventually you got to learn how to cut the weight. And it's a process. So you got to get with a trained professional to get it done. Also, you need spiritual help because it's a combination of the two. The ultimate healer is Jesus. So if you really want to be healed, you got to get with the ultimate healer and allow him to heal you.
Mhm.
And that's the process. How do we do it? Got to get in a safe place first. You know, trusted people to help me walk this journey of healing. And that's it. So,
I want to go a little bit deeper in the process of healing, especially within our African American community. Now, I am so excited because I see more and more people, especially of our culture, that are getting seeking out mental services, that are not letting past stigmas feel as though they can't do those things. But we have a large population that are not, that still won't reach out to a therapist or feel like they can't.
it's starting now. Whether you want to believe it or not, because I see in my practice, I have an influx of men that are coming in. And I always ask, well, how did you get here? Well, one of my friends told me
Mm,
what they did. And I think in order to break the stigma, people are going to have to share their experiences with counseling, testimony, word. What's the phrase I want to use? Um, Sharing your experience um, is always key. You know, recommendations. I am typically willing to try a product because somebody has recommended it to me.
mm.
And as we, as the ones who have experienced these things and begin to talk about the journey and how impactful it was and how beneficial it was, I think that would change the stigma because there's a lot of people that say, well, counseling is for crazy people. I say there is nobody crazy in counseling. The crazy people are running around here talking about ain't nothing wrong, knowing it is.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Come on.
So that's the difference. What's the worst I can do is go tell somebody I got an issue and they can give me some resources to help me overcome it. That's the piece. Having to deal with part of it is dealing with the shame monster. You
And I feel
know, the,
like that's the one of the biggest things is that you don't want to, sometimes people don't share their testimonies because sometimes they come with really hardship and they come
Mhm.
with struggle, and some people are still in the midst of it. So it's like, wait, I'll wait until I'm better to even share my story.
Yeah, and that also is a hindrance because now just by me telling my story, I might help set somebody else free because they was like, man, I didn't know that could be dealt with. And that's part of even in community. Some talking about what's going on, what happens, our stories. And I firmly believe that men don't talk at all is one problem. I believe that when men start to talk, they begin to open up. There will be a shift in this world. There will be a healing taking place because it's going to signal it's okay. And we're starting to see it in the sports arena where you see a lot of these athletes are talking about their mental health issues and struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's saying it's okay. So if this big, strong, burly dude can say he's battling with this,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's okay. and not to where, oh, he's a punk, he's weak. That's not the sign of weakness. It takes great courage to actually face your demons. You know, it's easy to hide, but what happens when I want to confront these things? There's a process that goes along with that, and I think that's one of the things we have to begin to embrace. Yes, it's a process, and there are other people doing it, but it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay to be free.
It's okay to be free. Okay, I need a shirt that say. I need a shirt that say that. Can I? We gonna get that made. We gonna get that
Let's
made.
do it.
It's okay to be free,
Hmm.
man. And I think when we think about free, everybody can think about so many different things. But when you're free from your own mindset that sometimes hinders you, it's
Yeah,
the breakthrough.
that is. Well, our mental models, how we see the world, what has shaped our viewpoints. Yeah, getting free from that is huge because you might only see it one way, but then you don't realize that there's other ways to see things.
Hmm.
You know, and we're all, let's be honest, we're not always taught the right stuff. The question is, can we actually, are we willing to learn or open to learning? That goes back to attitude again.
We gonna
What's
get
my attitude about
it's
receiving
free. We gonna
information?
get it's okay to be free, and we're gonna be like attitude. Like
Yeah,
I'm ready.
that's it. And it's like sometimes we got to stop and say, wait a minute, what if I was taught the wrong thing? I remember listening to Miles Monroe, and I heard him say, ignorance is generational. It's passed down. We pass down things we don't know, but every generation has the ability to learn more. Just like I sit back, my daughter, um, talking about what's an encyclopedia. She looked at me like, what? Like I remember those books with just information, and like we have so much information at our fingertips that anything I want to do, I reference YouTube, learning how to do something I know how to do. That's a resource. I have no excuse really to be ignorant about anything no more because I can hop right online
Hmm.
and I can find out whatever I want. However, the problem may be is that I do have to trust the source of the information because people can put anything out there. Um, what is it that I need to know, how I need to know it, but then I can filter things out so I can learn about different things. And I think that's it. We only teach our next generations what we know. All right. Now I feel like I have an obligation to learn. If there's something going on, I have the ability, I have access and resources. Now I need to will and drive to do it and then share it
Hmm.
because keeping it for myself is not going to do me any good. I have to share it so the next leg, the next generation can move forward. It's like a if you ever ran a relay in track and field. I'm gonna run the first leg and I'm gonna pass the baton to the next person. But I still have to do my job to position us to be in striking distance, if not in first place, to win the race.
Hmm.
And really, it's funny, I popped off. I used to run the first leg, and the goal was if I wasn't in first place, I had to keep us in contention. And there was some times there was some better runners out there, but I knew if I kept us close, I knew what I had on my team to take us forward. So my job was really not to lose the race.
Okay.
And I think that's what we have to do at some points is that, all right, how do I set the next generation up for success? So what do I do that allows them to position them to take it to the next level?
Hmm.
So I learned some things. Let me teach it to the next person so they can learn some things. And that's one of the things I even see in my practice is that I'm 43. And then I get I have a wide range of men that come to me even from 60, 65 down to teenagers.
Hmm.
And I talk information, especially with teenagers, like stuff I found out I'm learning about myself. Hey, I repeat those questions. Now, when did I find this out? Man, I learned this 10 years ago at 35. So I'm going to ask you at 21. So now you get a jump on it to answer these questions. And now you got more time to walk it out.
And that's that community mindset again of yes, I'm trying to move forward, but that doesn't mean I can't reach back. Or I
Yeah.
can't not just reach back, but I could set a path for
Hmm.
those coming behind me.
But that is reaching back. That's even legacy, whole nother topic. But the part of it is that you can never be the smartest person in your crew. because if you are, you're the dumbest. And I mean that because you stop growing. If I'm
Mhm.
the head honcho, I never grow because for one, who's pouring into me? And for two, who am I pouring into? That's what keeps me safe. Because if I'm somebody's pouring into me and then what I'm receiving, I'm pouring out, again, that's the process. I got to share it. And I think that's what we have to do, even in these situations. Somebody has to be willing to pour into somebody else. But also, now I'm gonna go back to self care because part of my self care is going to the fountain to fill up my bucket so I have something to give.
Mhm. I want, it's something that kind of has been on me about what you just said, as far as like, you don't want to be this, if you're the smartest person in your crew, then you're the dumbest. So what does that necessarily mean? Did that mean that you can have a crew, but you should have, it continues to grow? Is that what, because I always been kind of concerned about that, because I'm like, I hear this and I'm like, but what if you are the smartest? Does that mean you need to get new friends? Like what?
There's always somebody smarter than you that you need to be connected to. That's even like the mentorship process, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody out here that's doing things on a different level than me. I need to be connected to them so I can learn. So now this I can learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm learning and taking in, and then I can pass it along. So it's like a sandwich. I need bread on both sides,
Okay. Okay.
and that's it. The higher and then the lower. Because if I got a higher, they're pouring into me, and then now the lower, I'm pouring into them.
So
Eh,
it's a continuation of growth. Okay.
Yes.
Because I always used to hear that, and I don't know if you people who are watching this felt like I did. Like, you would hear that and you'd be like, dang, do that mean I need to get new friends? Do I need to change up?
No, you got to change up, but you got to add. You
Come
have to
on.
have. You
Okay.
have to add. So now we're talking about resources. I got to have proper resources that I can utilize to grow.
Mhm.
I'm not growing if I'm not learning from anybody. So, but if I'm the smartest person, who am I learning from? Because technically, if I'm the smartest person always, I think nobody else knows more than me. That's detrimental. That's prideful.
Mhm.
So I'm probably going to treat everybody like they're dumb. So how do I stay humble? You know, I have to be submitted to somebody else that's a little bit more advanced than me, that knows more than me, so I can glean from them.
Mhm. We talked some good stuff today. We did. I want to bring it all together because I think we hit on some really key points that I don't want anybody to forget or miss. First being attitude,
Hmm.
mindset. Very key, important when you're going through change, when you're trying to maintain, when you're trying to grow.
Hmm.
Sec, we talked about self-care.
Hmm.
And we talked about self-care and how we define it, and not being selfish, right? It's not
Yep.
being, it's all about me all the time, but I'm taking out the time to do what I need to do to clean out my cup.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. I remember them. They on my heart. Okay. We
That's
talked
it.
about failure, right? And we
Hmm.
talked about failure and how to define it.
Hmm.
And as long as we don't quit. Now that doesn't mean you don't adjust.
Correct.
Okay. Look. Oh,
Yep.
I
You
didn't
got
even
it.
write this down.
That's it. But also, making sure how you define failure, or even
Okay.
let's what I'm a flips. How do you define success? Because now you have to define success as well. Because if you don't have a definition of what is successful, you might automatically mark it as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of that too. So yes, you do. You have to have some definitions for things in life.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And then going into our community, our
Hmm.
culture, especially with Black men, too, is sharing our story, and that
Hmm.
goes across everybody. Because just because another man might share a story doesn't mean that a woman sharing her story might not impact that man too.
That is correct. It's typically that women are more likely to share their stories than men
Hmm.
because it's been culturally acceptable for women to speak and to deal with their emotions and feelings versus men. And that's the tragedy because we all have the same emotions and feelings. We were all wired the same way.
Hmm.
Only difference is that we label women as emotional because you have an arsenal of emotions that you're allowed to talk about.
Hmm.
And we are allowed to talk about three. mad, angry, and rage. Those are acceptable emotions. If
Wow.
it's anything outside of that, we're not allowed to talk about it. So a woman is emotional because you start dropping all these feeling words, and we like, what's that? Huh? That's a feeling? Oh, you emotional? No, you just can identify them. And it's taught from early age. If you look at the way a young lady is brought up versus the way a young man is brought up, we encourage our daughters to tell me what's wrong, what happened. It's okay. And our little boys, shut up, toughen up, quit acting like a girl, be a man,
Mm.
shake it off. So, but I hurt. You're crying too much. Those are the messages that sent. So now when I actually am hurt or going through something, I'm not allowed to talk about it because I don't want to be perceived as a girl or weak or soft. When the very thing I need is, hey, I need to run an analysis check and then I need to put a problem solving in place to deal with what I got going on.
And I think we many times miss that. We miss that. I know even with me raising a son, my son is 9. I have those moments, and I can say I need to definitely take some time out and talk to him about expressing his moments. Like yesterday, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all my little story. Noah, me and Noah decided to go for a walk yesterday, and Noah, being a kid, was how you go on a curb and you want to walk the line. Well, Noah had on flip flops, and Noah took a nice little tumble, and he scraped his leg, and he was ready to like quit. In my mind, I'm like, even though I want to be that nurturer, I was like, get up, like don't cry, you all right. Instead of going back and let's say, I know it hurts, but you're going to be okay, and actually having that conversation. And I think that's, even as a parent, I see that, like, I feel short in that arena where I could have took that moment and say, I know it hurts, and it's
It is.
okay to feel that and what you're feeling, but
Yes.
encouraging them to be able to express it and be able to move on too.
Yep. And that's part of the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? If I can't express it or identify it, how do I ever heal?
Mm.
So we have to be equipped on how to do that.
Noah, I'll just I'll just say I'll talk to them.
And that's what we just got to do. So now it
Mm,
starts younger to equip them to, you know what, it's okay to heal. Here, it's
okay.
okay to face it. I know it hurts, but guess what? We're gonna hurt together.
Oh, okay.
No, that's it. No, teach us.
That's our difference. We're gonna hurt together and get
Hmm.
through it.
Yeah, we will.
Mm, okay.
No?
Man, the whole video has definitely just spoken to me, and I'm so thankful that you took the time to really just pour into Manifest 31 and to pour into other people today. And I believe it was clean water.
I concur.
Is there anything else that you want to just mention, or to even end us off with?
This time is very crucial for our development, and it's time to reach out and seek your healing because that's going to be the very thing that allows us to move forward and to become great. We've suffered a lot of trauma, we've suffered a lot of hurt, we suffered a lot of pain, and now there's an opportunity to heal. And it's up to us to embrace the process of healing so we can be great. It's time to move forward and stop allowing these baggages, these anchors to hold us back from the greatness that's been placed down within inside each and every one of us because we matter.
Hmm.
We are just as important as anybody else, but we got to believe it. We got to see our own greatness and understand that we matter. And that's the piece. So go get your healing. It's okay to be free. Change your attitude and be great.
You done dropped like 4 short lines in 2 seconds. I'm ready. Oh my God. I'm ready for all of them too. I'm ready for all of them. And I'm hoping that everyone that watches this video, you have really took the time to appreciate and take in what you just got and realize that it is okay to be free. Definitely. Now how can everybody reach you? We'll have it in our resource page, but how can people reach you if they want to reach out for your counseling services? What is
Uh,
your your
We have a
information?
website at envisionchange.cc.com, or feel free to give our office at 586-251-0408 a call, and we'll get you set up. If not with me, I have a whole team of counselors there that's just as great as me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jamell. That will
Thank
be
you.
it for today, but I will see you soon.
All right. Appreciate you. All right.